Hello, everyone. We are currently letting people into the room. We should probably get started here in a minute or two. I just want to make sure that everyone who is coming to this presentation is in, or we might even get started in less than a minute. So we'll go ahead and see. You probably noticed that you're muted. We do have, it looks like 100 people here right now. So if you do have questions, Amy Fosek will be in the chat room. She'll be moderating, answering any questions you have, also sometimes interrupting me to tell me what popular questions or questions she hears over and over. So as we're going along, if you do have questions, feel comfortable putting those into the chat room. You do not have to ask them privately, but if you prefer, you can do that as well. This professional development is being recorded, so it should be up within 24 to 48 hours after we're done. I've added a link to the presentation on every slide. So if you would like to follow along with the presentation, you can go to the link that you see on the bottom. That is bit.ly/Poway Google Drive. All right, so I'm gonna have Amy introduce herself and she can do that now.
Yes, good morning, everyone. As Jason said, my name is Amy Fosek, and I'm one of the technology and innovation coaches. I'm just kind of reviewing what Jason had gone over as more people enter the waiting room. This is a 1-hour webinar of a Google Drive introduction. So during this webinar, we will, Jason actually will be going and giving you an overview, a live overview of Google Drive and all of the features that it offers. We'll leave time at the end for questions, as well as time for you to explore the tool further. As he mentioned, if you have questions during his webinar, please put them in the chat. If there is something specific to you, go ahead and private message me that personally. If it's something that you think would benefit the group, go ahead and send that question to the entire group.
And I got my coffee because it is 8 a.m. So thank you all for coming to this very early training. So hopefully you have your coffee as well. All right. So as you know, this is part of an almost 2-week professional development optional training. So if you would like more information as we're doing trainings through part of next week, go ahead and click on this link. Like I said, that's for when you open this presentation, and you'll notice on this link right here, any former videos that are made in professional developments, any upcoming sessions, they're all going to be linked on that link right there. That is a live link. It is changing all the time, so make sure you refresh it when you are there so that you can get the latest updated links for past videos, as well as if Zoom links change. If you'd like, you can also visit the PUSD Virtual Teaching Resources site. That's the site we maintain from March to June. There are almost 100 webinars just from there. So if you'd like to learn even more, you can go there, watch those past videos, and do some of those activities as well. Okay, so if you, and I'm sure that most of everyone has heard of Google Drive at this point, just to give you a little history while I go backwards. It started off as just Google Docs. They changed the name when they got more software in their suite. So like I said, they had Google Docs to compete with Microsoft Word, and then Google Sheets to compete with Excel, and Google Slides to compete with PowerPoint. Once they had a few of these products, they needed a place to store documents, and that's where Google Drive comes in. Google Drive's a bit different. It is a cloud drive, which is great because that means you can access your files anywhere. As you can see in the picture, whether it's your phone, tablet device, laptop, desktop, what's great about Google Drive is your files stay with you wherever you are. If you do not have the Google Drive app on your phone, I recommend it. It's amazing what you can do and share with people just with that app. So what's nice also is they've added some other tools along the way. So like I said, Jamboard, which allows you to draw and put up pictures, kind of like a Padlet. There's Google Drawings, which allows students to draw in all sorts of things that they can then put into things like Google Slides or Google Docs. All the folders are cloud folders. It integrates well with Canvas, and you can even add your photos. What some of you might not know is Google Drive for educators is unlimited space. So it's better than any hard drive you're gonna have. So I even put some vacation videos in there. I put videos in that I wanna show my students because I know that I'll never run out of space. I'm only using, I think, 30 gigs of space right now, but if you can use as much as you want. So it's kind of nice and easy in that respect. I don't ever have to worry about running out of space. All right, so it does integrate already. So a lot of you in the past probably have been using Microsoft Office. In fact, you're probably still using it if you like it, which is totally awesome. You can actually put in your PowerPoint, Excel, or Microsoft Word files inside Google Drive right now. I'm going to show you once we're done with the presentation how you can maintain those file endings so that you can actually store and share those files with others easily in the cloud. But also you can use other tools. Like right now, Slack integrates with Google Drive. So does Adobe. So if you teach a class like photography, or you're using Adobe products for anything, you can put your files inside that drive as well. Cami plus 1,000 other types. There's so many different tools right now that integrate with Google Drive, which is great because then when students are working or you're working on another site, for example, say like Powtoon, you're creating an animated presentation, you can actually save your Powtoons inside of Google Drive. And that's great because kids all the time are making portfolios where they want to download and have as many things in one folder or one set of folders as possible. So nowadays, a lot of apps connect to Google Drive to make that one-step seamless process. It also holds over 100 file types. So again, if you have files on your desktop that you would like to keep in there, it's not just regular Google tools. You can actually use it as your own personal, like kind of flash drive, except the best part, like I said, is that it's unlimited space. All right, so Google over the years has added some separate functions and tools within Google Drive. So like I said, for years, all it was really was a cloud drive where you would store your files or you would open things like Google Docs. But now, and if any of you have been using Google Drive for any period of time, you'll realize it can become quite busy in there pretty quickly and a bit hard to find things if you're naming these files, but over time you forget the names of the files. They actually have AI in their search technology. So you don't have to just name the file in order to find it. You can say things like, show me my presentations from February 2019. So if you know when you created a file, you can put that in there as well. Show me my Google Docs having to do with distance learning. So you can actually search in a lot of different ways with Google Drive. So don't feel like you have to know the exact name. If you don't, kind of ask Google Drive to find something for you from a specific date, or maybe it's about something in particular. Like I said, it has artificial intelligence built into its search engine. And like I said, over time, if you're using it a lot, you're gonna need it because it becomes very busy. There's a lot of folders, a lot of shared folders, especially if you're a teacher and you've used Google Classroom in the past, it can fill up pretty quickly. They do have things like priority, and I'm gonna go over that with you when we check out the Google Drive tool, and the explore function. If you've never seen the explore function, it's the little star on the bottom right of each Google tool page, like Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. For example, with Google Sheets, if you click the Explore button, it takes the data that you already have and it makes it into pie charts, bar graphs. It shows you that data automatically in multiple ways. And on Google Docs, you can research, add images, citations to your Google Docs. So what the Explore button really does, it's kind of like a smart button. Like it understands what you're going to have to do going forward. So it helps you in that regard. So if you do have students using these Google tools, make sure to talk about that Explore button. Okay. All right, so some additional features, like we talked about, Google Drive started as a cloud drive, but over the years, it's kind of changed. One great thing is if you are a bit hesitant right now to add everything to Google Drive, especially if you like to keep things on your desktop, it's actually a pretty seamless process. So for example, if I keep my work stuff on my desktop at work, I might have a folder titled My Work Stuff. And in that folder, I have 10 different folders, maybe for different subject matters, units, class, whatever, what have you. And within those folders, there's 3 subfolders, and there's just files all throughout this. And you might be thinking that would be a big pain in order for me to move over to Google Drive. But actually, you just go to that very top folder, My Work Stuff, and you can actually drag and drop that into Google Drive. And it will build that folder structure for you automatically and put all those files in the folders that you have them set at. Okay, so really it's a lot easier than you would think, and I'll kind of show you an example of how moving a file to Google Drive works after this. And this is on Mac or PC. Also, if you have a Mac or PC, you can actually download the Google Drive app, and it kind of works like your File Explorer or your Finder, if you're an Apple user, does pretty much exactly. So when you go and open up Finder or File Explorer, the way that it looks is almost like the files exist on your hard drive. Okay, so that's always an option too. What's really great is those files, even though they look like they're on your hard drive, when people make changes and updates, they're updated automatically. So you don't even have to refresh, you just reopen it, and it's the newest version possible right from the get-go. Shared drive. So if you've been using Google Drive, they came out with something called Team Drives, but they've changed that name to Shared Drive. The positive of a shared drive is that you can, with a group of teachers, create a shared drive, and it's kind of like this Google Drive on its own. It looks the exact same way for the most part, but it only has the people that you want on this shared drive. So usually, if you want, you create a folder, you add everyone that you want to share it with, and then you put the files in it. But on a shared drive, anything you put in there is shared automatically with the people who belong to that shared drive. I'm going to show you that in a bit too, just to show you how powerful that can be, because there's a lot of different types of ways you can share that information with the people in the shared drive. So it's not like everyone has full 100% access. Data loss prevention. So I don't know much about this feature, but from what I understand, it's a way to prevent some people from sharing sensitive data. I'm going to have to look more into that. I know that it just started out, so I think that's something to look into, especially as we have information sometimes that we keep on Google Drive that would be sensitive, and we don't want to share it out with just anyone. And offline access. I'm going to show you how to turn on offline access. What this allows you to do is, even if your internet's out, you can go in and work on your files. And then when you get internet back up, it updates them all automatically. I'm going to stop for a second to see if Amy has any questions.
Yes, Jason, do you mind going over just how, if somebody was leaving PUSD, whether they were retiring or moving on to a new position, how they might transfer everything that's in their drive over to a different account?
Yes, so over the years, they've changed it. It used to be if you were in Google Drive and you created a file or a folder, you could not change who the originator of that file and folder was, but now you can. So basically, if someone has, and again, with the new shared drive, I don't know why one person would have be in charge of all this. What you want to do is use the shared drive. That way, it's a seamless process. All you would go in to do is, on the shared drive, you would change the manager from one person to the other, and all those files that originated maybe with one person would immediately make that other person the originator. So I'm going to show you that as well. You can do that also in regular Google Drive. And I can kind of show you how that is done as well, but that would probably have to be done one file at a time, or at least one folder. And so it might take a bit longer. But yeah, we're going to go over that. Okay, so next step, I've included 4 different links so that if you are on the presentation, once we're done with this professional development, you'll be able to go in and kind of get started with some kind of things that are probably great to start off with. For example, if you've never used Google Drive, I think it's great to start at the beginning to kind of learn about sharing. Sharing files and how you go about sharing files is very important. So if you are starting out, I would focus on that. But if you kind of are past that, you've been using Google Drive, I would probably get started with shared drives to kind of see how you can learn to collaborate with those, because you would understand how sharing works. Okay, so, and I will move this back to the beginning. Again, if you would like to open up that presentation, that is the link. Once I'm done with my part, I'm going to pop up this page again so that you can have that. It is a live link. It's going to be up for a while. We're probably going to add things to it, so make sure you bookmark it. So I'm going to go to my drive, and I'm here right now. First place I'm going to start off with is my settings. So if you want to get to your drive, there's a lot of different ways to do it. If you have Chrome open, you can always click on the app waffle and open there, and you should see Google Drive there. So usually you load up Chrome and you should be able to see the app waffle. But if not, you can always type in drive.google.com and that will take you right there as well. Okay, so once you're on your Google Drive, and again, you do not have to be there right now. You can just watch and then do all this later. I'm gonna click the gear for the settings. There are some settings that are important when you're getting started in Google Drive. One of them is the convert upload setting. So this is important. If you work with Microsoft Office and you want to upload your PowerPoints, your Excel, or your Word documents, you can do that. But you want to make sure that this is unchecked. The reason for that is because if you do upload it and then you try to open it in Google Drive, what it's going to do is it's going to turn it into a Google Drive file. If you just want to store your files, then you would make sure this is unchecked. Now, if you want to convert your files, for example, you are done working on PowerPoint and you want to move those over to Google Slides, then you would make sure that that's clicked on. Okay, but it's very important that you understand that, because if you open those files and this is clicked on, it's no longer a PowerPoint file. It's going to switch it into a Google Slide. And if you don't have a backup, then that's kind of it. So that's a really important setting. So if you're not certain yet, I always keep that unchecked. All right, the next one is offline. I always keep this checked. I don't see any reason not to. You want to create, open, and edit your Google files while being able to be offline. Okay. Some of these are, other choices, like the density of the spacing between your folders and files. That's going to be up to you. The rest of these, like I said, making priority my default homepage. I wouldn't do that just yet. I'm going to go over that screen, and because Google Drive really nowadays, you can use it mainly in 2 different ways. One, if you just plan on putting your files in here and nothing else, well, then just leave it how it is. But it's kind of becoming a bit of a workspace where it organizes your project information. It puts things in relevant order so that you can use it technically as a tool that's similar to Slack or Microsoft Teams. Definitely not as powerful, but you can. It does have some elements of a project-based tool, but that, again, that's up to you. Notifications. So get all updates about Google Drive items via email. If you want, you can enable that. You do not have to. And the last one is managing your apps. So I'm going to show you how you can actually connect apps to Google Drive. And then if you ever need to change the settings inside of them, you can actually go here and pick what are the default tools. Let me show you an example of that if I can find it. Yeah, so like zip unzip is like basically if I have a zip file, I can use this by default so that when I open a zip file, maybe it'll open up for me automatically. So really these are features that used to exist like normally as software on your desktop, but now it's kind of like used in a cloud drive, they use apps to open things automatically. We talked earlier about Powtoon, Nearpod. You can put your Nearpod files on here as well. So a lot of different tools that you can put in to open files automatically within Google Drive. Okay, so again, the most important two, do you want to convert your uploads? Do you want to be able to work offline? So again, I always check this. This one's up to you. You got to really think about that one and how you use it, like I said. All right, so I'm going to click done. And I'm going to show you this right-hand side. You probably noticed there's a few icons. This is your Google Calendar. So if you use Google Calendar, any appointments or things that are due or coming up would be right there. As you can see, I do not use Google Calendar and Google Drive for this. Google Keep. Google Keep is a kind of a note-taking app. You can use this when you're having team meetings about anything and put some information there, because if you're going to go to your Google Drive and work, you can keep some notes right in there, and you can add as many as you want. And this bar stays in Google Drive whenever you're in there. You also have tasks. So if you want to keep a checklist of tasks, you can put that right there as well. Keep that open, and as you're finishing things while working in Google Drive, you can mark them off. Okay. Google Drive, just like every other Google tool, has its own add-ons. So if you click Get Add-ons, you're going to be able to go through here and look at some things that work with Google Drive. Okay. Google Docs has this, Google Slides has this, Google Sheets has this. So basically, think of these as like little extensions for Google Drive that make doing things in Google Drive a bit easier. Okay. So like this one right here, QR code file sharing. So all it's going to do is allow you the ability to turn your files into QR codes. Okay. Obviously in a virtual learning environment, not very helpful, but if you're a teacher and you want to be able to post links onto certain things, especially if you're working like off a playlist, or your kids are collaborating independently, you don't have time to send them the link, you would just print out a link onto a QR code and the kids could scan it themselves. Okay. So those are the apps. So if you want more of those in your Google Drive, go ahead and click Get Add-ons. And I'm sorry, I don't want to call them apps, they're add-ons because Google already has apps, and I'm going to show you that right now. So you can do this in two ways. You can click the new button, or if you like, you can click this little down arrow. They're both the same thing. So whatever's more convenient for you. If I click more and I go down here, I can actually connect apps to Google Drive. Okay. So you've probably heard of some of these: Pear Deck, Nearpod, Cami, PDF. And I'm going to go over this one really quick. So what this does is this allows me to open certain file types with these tools. So if you went to the Cami training, you probably saw we worked on PDF files. Okay, you can have PDF files in your Google Drive, but what it normally works out as is you have a PDF file in there. You can open it and it will show you the preview of that PDF file. What apps does like this, and for example, this is installed, this is going to allow me to open that PDF file in Cami and annotate on top of it, all by clicking one button. Okay, so think of apps as you're trying to find like these apps that help with certain file types, so that students can work on them on their Chromebook device. Remember, Chromebooks are cloud devices, they don't have software. So in order for students to do some of these things, they need to connect apps to their Google Drive, so that it makes it easier for them to do. So Cami, all it does is basically you install it and because I have it installed, I can open any PDF file, for example, this one, which I used that one day, and I'm going to double click it. This is normally what I would be able to see when it comes to a PDF file. I'd be able to see the PDF, but now because I installed that or connected that app, I can open with Cami like that. Okay, so if I didn't put on that app, I would not be able to annotate it. I'd just be able to preview it. So Google Drive, like I said, it's a cloud storage tool that holds all of your files, and I think for the most part that's what people use it as, but actually it can do a lot more. So you want to make sure that you're connecting apps for all the things that you have. Like I said, there's a lot of different apps. If you want, you can click these 3 bars when you get in here, and you can search for different types of tools. They even have an education section right here, okay? But then they also have most popular top charts as well. So I'm not gonna go through all these because, like I said, there's a bunch. So if you wanna look at all of the tools and check out what they do, feel free to do so. That is, again, connecting more apps. I'll show you one last time. I'm gonna click New, I'm gonna go to More, and then I connect more apps. All right, I'm gonna get rid of that PDF. And I'll just go back here. Okay, so we've shown how to do add-ons and connect apps. We've also gone through the settings. The one thing I definitely want you to understand when you're in Google Drive, you can right click on something anytime and get all of these choices, okay? So I can preview it. I can open it with something, like I said. If there's an app that you have connected, I can do it from there. I do not have to even double click it. I can share it with anyone I want. I can get a link to share it where I can send it in email. You can add it to a workspace. I'm gonna show you kind of what workspaces are since that's pretty new in Google Drive. I can show the file location. I can add a shortcut, rename it, star it if I want it to be like kind of a more important file. Manage versions. Remember, in Google Drive, or I'm sorry, with Google Files, it saves every version. So if you have a Google Doc that's 5 years old and you've gone in there every year and you've made changes, you can go back and see that first version from 5 years ago. You can make a copy, download it, all this stuff. So if you're ever confused about like, what can I do with a file in Google Drive, just right click on it, okay? So that's gonna give you all these options right from the start, okay? So that honestly, I use right clicking on files more than just about anything else in Google Drive. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the priority link right up here. You'll probably see it right there. When I click here, it's going to have my most recent files, but also it's gonna have these individual workspaces. Unfortunately, right now, you cannot share these workspaces with others. So that's kind of a bummer. But you know, I'm hoping in the future they allow that. But right now, what you can do is you can create your workspaces. Maybe you're working on different projects, however you want it to be. Like I said, for students, it's definitely a pro to show them how to use these workspaces so they can be more organized from their device. But really right now, that's what it is. So if I want to add files, sorry, I'm going to view workspace and I can add files here. Like it says 25 file limit, that should be more than enough. And then you'd be able to add your files, and that's all it does. Then it brings up your Google Drive on this thing. You can search kind of like the way we searched before, or you can kind of go through your files automatically. Okay, so workspaces are pretty new. I'm hoping they get better as time goes on. But right now it's just an easy way for you to kind of organize your information.
Jason,
Okay. Yeah.
do you mind going over just a few things for me?
Yes.
There's some common questions. Okay, can you just go over the difference between an app versus an add-on? And also then clarify when, excuse me. So once you're done with that, do you mind going over how if teachers are using Google Classroom last year and they archive the class, they're wondering if it will take the student work out of their drive, and if not, how do they clear all those files? So how do you delete?
If you want, I mean, if you don't know, in Google Classroom, everything is kept in the Classroom folder. If you've archived the course, that's great. You know, if you want, you can always, so this is what I tell people, you never, ever, ever, and I want to make this clear, ever delete this folder. This Classroom folder, do not ever delete it. I've had teachers delete it and it's a nightmare because we have to ultimately get Google involved in order to get that back. It will not generate again on its own. Once you have a Google Classroom and it creates that folder, if you delete it, and it's kind of a bummer because it's just named Classroom, and a lot of teachers I think deleted it because they didn't know why it was there. I wish it said Google Classroom or something else. but do not ever delete it. It's fine to delete subfolders because your first layer of folders are your Google Classrooms classes. So it's fine. So if you go in here and you want, you can right click on this and you can remove it. Okay, so if you don't want that, I don't know why you would, because honestly, here's your course. Everything exists in that subfolder. You're not really seeing it most of the time. It's great because it keeps a copy of all the student work for that year. But again, and since you have unlimited space, it's really not like you're deleting it because you're deleting the space. Now, if you have a lot of Google Classroom classes, maybe you've been using it since 2014, then sure, just right click on those and you can actually delete those. But yeah, I would archive the class first, then delete it. Yeah, so that would be the way to do that. The difference between add-ons and apps. Add-ons just, okay, well, we'll start with apps. Apps connect Google Drive so that you can connect your files to that app. So like we showed with Cami, if I have my files in Google Drive, that's great. I can open them, I can look at them, I can preview them. But if I connect an app, now I can manipulate them, okay? Now, obviously, you can manipulate things like Google Docs, but that's a Google tool. But PDF files, Google can't do anything with those. So all you're doing is storing them. So when I connect an app like Cami, now I can manipulate those PDF files. And so it's the same thing for like PNG files, which are graphic files. You can open them in Google Drive, but you can also find an app that allows you to edit images that you can then open that PNG file in, do all your work, save it, it saves to Google Drive, and you have that new updated version. So think of apps as that way. Add-ons, like I said, are just tools just for Google Drive, not the files so much. They just allow you to do little things within Google Drive. So like we talked about, this one just basically turns your files in Google Drive into QR codes. That's it. You're not really manipulating it. You're just basically finding a shortcut, because normally what you would have to do is take that Google Drive link, go to a QR code website, paste in the link, download the image, and then send that image somewhere. Well, with this one, basically when you connect it, when you connect it to Google Drive, when you right click, it could say make QR code, and that's it. So you're not really doing any heavy lifting like an app would do. It's just kind of like a shortcut, if that makes sense. Okay.
So just to clarify a few other things, there are some apps and extensions that you can use on things and share those with your students without them needing the extension or add-on. So for example, if I use the add-on for Nearpod and I'm sharing a Nearpod lesson with my students,
yes,
the students do not need to have that add-on. They will just use the code. However, if you're using one like Cami, they will need to have Cami on their device.
I always, and I'm always going to teach my students about tool. Like, I'm not going to say, hey, go into the add-ons and add all the ones you want. But if I know that there's a few add-ons that I need from my students, you know, during that first 6 weeks of class, that's what I'm going to show them. I'm like, hey, all right, we're going to go to Google Drive, and I'm going to show you how to connect a few apps to your Google Drive. And then basically I show that my screen just like I am now. And I say, we're all going to do this. And we all take our time, they connect those apps. It's a one-time thing, and then boom, they're done. So, and what's great is, you know, if teachers are doing this, like say, you know, third grade teachers are doing it, it's great because once it's connected for that student, it's connected until they're done with 12th grade. So, so yeah. But yes,
and
that's
then,
a good, yeah.
Yes. So, and just a reminder, once you add an extension or an app, you only need to do that one time.
Correct.
So once you've done it, it's there. Jason, two things. Do you mind first going over workspace versus folders within your drive? And then while you're pulling that up, let's see, somebody asked or go ahead and do that one. And then Jason, the next question was, did we hear back if Cami is being pushed out to students?
I have not heard about Cami being pushed out, but it's definitely something that we can, I mean, now that it's a tool that the district wants to use, I would imagine that before school starts, we're going to push out those tools to students. I know that Cami right now is enabled. Um, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's been sent out. But yeah, that's something that we're definitely, I mean, now that someone's mentioned it, it makes sense to just push out all those apps to students so that they immediately have them.
Okay, and then
But
finally, there
just
was
so you,
a,
oh, hold on, I'm going to stop a second
sorry, go
though.
ahead.
Just so you know, sending out the Cami app to students isn't the same thing as connecting the Cami app to Google Drive. The district can't do that. So if you want them to be able to open and use Cami from Google Drive, then they would have to connect the app. Is that required? Probably not. If you're the teacher and you basically are sending out the PDF file, I mean, there's ways for you to do it since it will integrate with Canvas to make it an assignment, and the kids will click on it and it will automatically open up in their Cami app, and they'll sign in and they'll be able to annotate and then turn it in through there. This is kind of more like I would use it for middle school and high school kids so that they can proactively open PDF files. If I'm a K4 teacher, I'm going to probably want to manage that process myself unless I have students that I know are super tech savvy and like to be able to do that. So think of it that way, like, because I don't want it to be a headache where these kids have to go in and they don't even know what Google Drive is. And now I'm trying to explain to them what an app connection is. So really it's going to be dependent on your students and you. And, you know, because if I'm a teacher, I can make an assignment on a PDF file and make it in Canvas and make it so that when they open it, it opens in Cami automatically. The difference between workspaces and folders, really it's just like this. Because you can think of workspaces as folders. So yeah, I would say that right now the difference between the two is probably marginal. The difference is how it looks. So if I view workspace, really I can think of it as, oh, I'm really viewing, you know, a list of files in a folder. But that's why I said, you know, right now it's kind of limited. So that's, as you can see, I don't use it very often just because I'm waiting for them to be able to share. Because that's what I want. I want to be able to share with colleagues. All of us can put our files here and then see when we are working on the project, like this is where all the folders go. Okay.
Last thing, just really quickly, Jason, there was some talk in the chat about Pearson, teachers not having access to Pearson in the social studies curriculum, and you will have access to that this year. So just to clarify that.
All right, so like I said with shared drives, this is what the page looks like. It used to be called team drives. As you can see, you can have as many different types of teams as you want, okay? So if I go to a team page, it's going to show something like this. And you'll notice it looks just like Google Drive. That's the intention. The difference is that these 5 people that are on this team drive go in and they see the exact same thing. So instead of having to worry about like, oh, you know, what's being shared with who, because that's what my regular Google Drive folder is for. But if I know I have a team of 5 people who we work together on everything, and I know a lot of you do that with your colleagues and, you know, your grade level partners, I feel comfortable creating a team drive with them because then all the files on here are going to be pertinent. Okay, I know that schools do this as well, like principals have set these up. And what's really great is, like someone said, like, what if someone leaves the team? In a team drive, that doesn't matter, because if I click manage members, I'm gonna see everyone on here, and you'll look to the right and it says manager, because there's different layers of ownership in a team drive. When everyone's a manager, that means if, say for whatever reason, they ultimately decide, Jason, you're not as smart as you think you are, so we are letting you go. It's really simple. They can then go in here and remove me from this team drive, and that's it. All those files that I was a manager of, I'm no longer a manager, but these other 4 people, they're managers. So and what's really great is I can, let's see, I can do it here. Say for whatever reason they're getting rid of everyone. Well, you can actually manage members, and you can add people. So I can basically turn her into a manager, and then all of a sudden this person who's never had anything to do with this team drive, has never made one of these files, I make them a manager, and all of a sudden they are the originator of all those files. I can then go in and remove all those other people, and the only person left would be her. She would manage all that content, and it would be originating with her. So that's the power in team drives, is that you can switch who's in charge of what immediately. And this is really important because sometimes that happens. Or you have that teacher that's made all the content, and now all of a sudden they're moving to a different school, or maybe they're moving out of the district. Well, now with team drives, that makes it a lot easier to just switch all those files at once. It's really important, and I'll show you, I'm going to click cancel here, that in team drives, you're kind of making sure that, like when you do share those drive settings, and I'm going to click here. All right. Team drives allows for a lot of different things. So for example, you can decide that can people download, copy, print files within here? Can certain people share with non-members, or sharing outside of the district? That's why it's so important. Then when you are managing members, you have to know, like, certain people maybe shouldn't be a manager. So if I click on mine, if you're a manager of a shared drive, that means you can manage any part of that shared drive. And the most important part of that is managing the content. You can delete whatever you want. You can delete other people. You can change the entire settings on the team drive. So if you are managing a team drive and you're adding people, and maybe, like, you're not very comfortable with that person being able to have total power like that, you can make them a content manager, which means they can move files all around. They can delete files. So this is important too, because sometimes you see that it says move files. They can move files outside of team drives. And this is kind of dangerous. So for example, say I'm on this group and I move this file to my personal Google Drive. Well, that file no longer exists for all the other members, okay? And that's happened to me a few times, where people who just didn't know what they were doing, I don't think there was any ill intent, were moving files outside of team drives or other folders into their personal Google Drive, and didn't realize or understand that that's not making a copy. You have to right click and click make a copy. That way you can make one to your own Google Drive. But if you move the original file, then no one has it anymore. So manager and content manager should be people who really understand how Google Drive works, really understand the file structure, how everything's being shared, because you don't want someone in there that's maybe just learning or trying things out. In that case, you want a contributor, okay? Someone who could just add and edit files. Nothing bad can happen with that. Like they could go into any of the files you have and make changes, comments on those files, and that's great. The last two, like I said, maybe a principal would be a commenter or a viewer, someone outside that you don't want to manage any of your content, but they can see it. Those two are perfectly fine. So in team drives, it's really important that you're setting it up the right way. But like I said, so those two things, managing members and your shared drive settings, it's really important that you were doing that properly. So for example, remember, managers can change this. So if you just make everyone a manager, none of these settings mean anything. But if you're the manager, then only you can change this part. So if you say only members of this shared drive can access files in this shared drive, that means no one else can add new people to this shared drive, okay? They can't send out any share links to people that aren't part of this drive either. So it basically makes it so that you know that this is secure information. So if it is information that you're including that only you want eyes for, that's the way that you would share this, okay? So when you are a manager and you're just making sure that whoever you make manager, they understand that. Yeah, so you can change this one. Only people inside Power Unified can be given access to the files in this shared drive. Okay, so going through all these settings and understanding them is really important. Yeah, preventing commenters and viewers from downloading, copying, and printing files into shared drive. So for example, say my Google slide folder or presentation that I was just showing to you, if I click prevent from downloading, copying, and printing, that means that basically you wouldn't be able to do anything with that presentation other than view it, okay? Yeah, you couldn't even make a copy so that you can make your own version or download it to watch it later, okay? So a lot of options for you to pick from. But like you said, like I said before, you know, all your files, your folders, all that stuff's the same. So if you are thinking of using this as a collaborative tool for team members, I think it's great. Just understanding what the different, not properties, the different levels that you give to each member, it's important. All right, so that's kind of my presentation. If you have questions, you can go ahead and ask them in the chat window. Amy will read those out loud to me. I'll be looking through that as well. For the last 13 minutes, you can actually go into Google Drive, maybe start a workspace, start a team drive, check out some add-ons or connect some apps, whatever you want to do for the last 13 minutes. And if you have any questions, like I said, we'll be here all the way until 9 o'clock.
Jason, can you go over two things? So first, can you go over how you would invite someone to a team drive?
Yeah, so here, I'm going to click manage members. So you can find it in two places, manage members here, or you can just click here. And I'm glad they added this link since it makes it nice and easy. Yeah, so once you're in here, you could just put in their POWA USD email address. If you've been typing in email addresses with Google for a long time, chances are they're going to come up, but we also maintain a contact list right in there. But yeah, you can do this. So if I wanted to add Jennifer Burks, I'd click that. I would pick, remember this is important, I would pick her ability to what I wanted her to be able to do while in that team drive, and I'd click send.
And then Jason, do you mind going over some of the differences between a shared drive versus Commons? I know they're two different platforms, but some of the benefits and why you would use a shared drive versus why you wouldn't.
The benefits are that you are in a closed environment with a team of people that you've approved in different positions. I guess the problems with it sometimes is if you're not the content manager and they've made it so you can't share with certain people, then that's kind of a tough thing, you know, because the purpose of a cloud drive most of the time is to share information easily. So I mean, I think the benefits definitely outweigh the cons with a team drive because you want that information to be private, like the work that you're creating with your team. You don't want just anyone to be able to access that. You don't want it freely available online. Unfortunately, I don't know. I know, you know, with Canvas Commons, that you can, I mean, really that's a place for anyone, I believe, to share their content. Team Drives doesn't really work that way. It's not like a store where anyone in the district can come onto your team drive and take presentations or Google Docs like how they want. So really, yeah, a team drive is really just to keep with your team. But that doesn't mean that it has to be limited to your school site. You can include anyone from the district. In fact, you can even technically include anyone from outside the district because you can change your settings to allow really anyone to be part of that team drive. So you're not really like limited, but for the most part, most people keep it within POWA Unified, but I know that, you know, I'm on a team drive where that's not the case, that we have it open up and there's people outside of the district on it.
And then Jason, can you review the shortcut feature? There is a teacher who is getting work sent in, showing up in their drive from students, and some work has the shortcut feature and some does not.
Sorry, what tool?
I'm not. The shortcut feature. Can you go over that one?
Did I? I'm confused when they say shortcut feature. Like what are they? How are they getting work from their students?
I'm
Like
not
I would need to know. Like what are they using to?
to push out the content, you mean?
Yeah, is this like through? I'm not sure when they use the word shortcut feature.
Let's see here. Steve, do you mind clarifying what you're referring to with the shortcut feature?
Yeah, and someone just asked me while I'm waiting for that. Yes, if you want to move a file from any like I said, so I'm going to go to my Google Drive, and I'm sorry, I said I was going to do this. And you open Finder, and I can have. All right, so I'm in my, and this is the exact same way with File Explorer. Okay, so I can always open up File Explorer or Finder, and I can drag and drop. So here's a folder, and like I said, it can be any folder, and it can have as many files as you want. And I drag it here, and you'll notice that I get a blue bar, and I'm going to drop it. I'm going to let go, and that's it. So there's 27 files in there, and it's going to upload it. It's going to call it Google Tips and Tricks, like you see here. And after all those files are in there, I can actually share it with anyone I want. And that's really as easy as it is. It's drag and drop. So you just open up your File Explorer folder. And so like if it's your Microsoft files and you have them all in a folder. Now, if you don't have them in a folder, you kind of just have to do like one of these. You have to like highlight everything. So if it's like, oh, I have 100 Microsoft files, well, then you're going to have to highlight all 100. But then once they're highlighted, you can basically highlight and move them over. So I just highlight everything, and then I would drag like that. And that's it. I would drag and drop it down here. I'm not going to do that because I don't want all those folders in my Google Drive. And that's it. So quick access, unfortunately, you do not have control over it. It's just basically going to show you your last 4 things that you worked on. I thought of that too. I would love to be able to pick my quick access files, but no, unfortunately, I mean, it's just trying to guess what you would work on next by what you've worked on in the past. Yeah, and Jennifer's just mentioning some good apps to add. Remember, you do that by clicking New, going down to More, and then scrolling all the way to the bottom and clicking Connect More Apps. So yeah, Pear Deck, that integrates with Google Slides, Read and Write, which is a screen reader, Screencastify or Loom, both of those, Cami, Zoom, like, so yeah, a lot of things that make your life working in Google Drive easier. And Amy, did we ever figure out with the shortcuts?
No, do you mind just unmuting him? It is Steve Bass. I don't have the ability to do that.
You're not a host?
No.
All right, hold on, let me see. Hey, Steve.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good.
So I basically create a folder and share it with my class and then ask them to drop their work in it and unshare it with everybody else who's in there because they're all editors.
Okay.
So they usually just drop it in and there it is and I can see it. But a lot of times it comes in with an icon that says it's a shortcut to something else. Is that their original document somewhere else or? as the icon.
Yeah. So you, yeah, I don't know. I've never done it that way. So you will create a shared folder and they just drop it all into the shared folder.
Yeah, I didn't use Google Classroom yet, and I was about to start using that this year, but
You
now
like, do you use Canvas?
I do now. Yeah, well, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just did this through Google Drive. Just had a folder, shared it with the whole class. It was
Uh-huh.
super easy. Once in a while, they make a mistake, and I could fix it.
Okay. Yeah, it's the way that they're sharing. If it's saying that it's a shortcut to something else, it's the way that whatever they're dropping in isn't the original file.
Okay,
So
that's what I'm wondering, because
yeah,
copying from others and things like that.
yeah, it's definitely not the first. Yeah, it's not the basic file that's being dropped in there. So they've, I don't know. Yeah, if it's saying
Don't
it's
see
a
the file I
shortcut.
gave them. Then I give them a template sometimes,
Uh-huh.
and they take that template. Maybe they're not making a copy; they're just doing the work on it. Or they're
Uh-huh.
making,
Yeah, what I would do, I would go to the, because Brenda's going to be doing a Canvas and assignments or Google Assignments LTI. It shows you how to basically do Google Assignments in Canvas. And what it does is it makes a copy for each student and puts it in a folder for you automatically. So
perfect.
they don't even have to drag and drop, and you don't even have to manage it. You'd basically be able to open it and see everything in there just by having them do that assignment.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but I get where you're coming from, because honestly, like that's how with Google Drive you used to have to do it. You had to create that shared folder, and everyone had to go in and drop their stuff in. But if it's saying it's a shortcut, then I mean, they could be dragging a bookmark, a lot of different things that aren't that original file. So,
Thank you.
uh-huh.
So we are wrapping up towards the end. If other questions come up after this training, please feel free to email us at edtech@pusd.com.
Yeah.
I know that there are some questions we may not have been able to answer. I think I got through most of them. So go ahead and Jason, we have a few more minutes. So if I did not get to your question, please go ahead and put it in the chat, and we will try to answer those with the few minutes we have.
Yeah. And again, we're also going to be doing this training at noon. So if you just feel like it would go better the second time, I always do it better the second time. But so yeah, feel free to come and join us at noon for our other Google Drive introduction. There's the link to the presentation. So you want to make sure you have that and bookmark it. Like I said, great resources at the bottom that can get you started.